the 11th question pertains to the two types of bodhisattva in the Mahayana. So basically, in Mahayana, we have two types of bodhisattvas. We have bodhisattvas in aspiration, and we have enlightened bodhisattvas. Okay, so the bodhisattvas in aspiration are beings who commit themselves to the Buddhist path to attain enlightenment. So anybody who has the intention to become a Buddha, yes, it can be said to be a bodhisattva in aspiration because he's practicing to become a Buddha. Maybe it could be through some particular Buddhist school, but any being that wishes to become a Buddha can be said to be a bodhisattva. Of course, in Mahayana, we reserve this term bodhisattva for high-level practitioners who are very sincere and very wise. For example, Bodhisattva Vasubandhu or Bodhisattva Nagarjuna. Okay, so of course, all beings who have the aspiration to become a Buddha, even if though they are foolish beings like us, can be said to be technically a bodhisattva, but normally in Buddhism, we reserve the term bodhisattva for high-level practitioners out of respect for them, okay? But technically, all beings...
But also, even those who have Shinjin, who have faith in Amida Buddha, are considered bodhisattva in aspiration.
Yes, of course. Indeed, even though we are ordinary beings with no high spiritual capacity, if we believe in Amida Buddha, we are considered bodhisattvas as well because we will become a Buddha in Amida Buddha's Pure Land if we have Shinjin, if we have faith in Amida Buddha in accordance with the primal vow. Okay, but there are other another type of bodhisattva who are the enlightened bodhisattvas. Okay, and these bodhisattvas are, for example, like Avalokiteshvara, Mahastama Prapta, like for example Manjushri, who are actually not ordinary bodhisattvas like us, but actually Buddhas who manifest themselves as bodhisattvas. Okay, so we can go to the commentary on the Sutra on the Buddha of Infinite Life by Joshua Sensei. This is on page 24. Okay, so
it is the commentary on section 2 of the larger sutra.
Yes, in this section
that is where I explain these two types of bodhisattvas. Okay.
Yes, in the section 2 of the commentary on the larger sutra, the qualities of bodhisattvas in the audience. So remember that when Shakyamuni Buddha delivered the larger sutra, which is the most important sutra in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, the Arhats present, like Shariputra and Ananda, and there are also Mahayana bodhisattvas that are present there. And these bodhisattvas are actually Buddhas who manifest as bodhisattvas who have already attained enlightenment, okay? Sometimes people in the Mahayana get confused because they think that, for example, Avalokiteshvara or Manjushri, so what exactly are they? Because they perform enlightened activities, yes? They lead beings towards enlightenment, but some people falsely believe that they are still students. But actually, in many Mahayana sutras, we see that Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva has already attained enlightenment. Actually, he was a Buddha a long time ago. Yes. For example, I will give you here an example. For example, in the Great Compassion Dharani Sutra, yes, Shakyamuni Buddha instructs Ananda. Okay, so Ananda asked Shakyamuni Buddha, Bhagavan, or Lord, what is the name of this Bodhisattva Mahasattva who is so good to teach us this Dharani? And the Buddha said, this Bodhisattva is called Avalokiteshvara, yes, the unrestricted one, also called Nipin Alaryat, also called 1,000 bright eyes. Virtuous man, this Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva has unimaginable, mighty, and holy powers. uncountable kalpas before, he had already been a Buddha named True Dharma Brightness Tathagata, because of the power of his great compassionate vows and in order to call upon all bodhisattvas to comfort and please all living beings, he appears as a bodhisattva. Okay? So this is a very important passage. It's not only the case of Avalokiteshvara. For example, Manjushri as well is considered to be an enlightened bodhisattva. Okay, let me give you another passage here. For example, in the Surangama Samadhi Sutra, Manjushri is presented as an ancient Buddha. Yes. So I will read now a passage that is quoted here in Joshua Sensei's book, the commentary, the Surangama Samadhi Sutra. Yes. This passage reads as follows. At that time, the elder Mahakasyapa addressed the Buddha, "Where Honor One, I suggest that Dharma Prince Manjushri has already been a Buddha in a past life. He has himself sat in the seat of enlightenment and turned the wheel of the Dharma, and he has manifested entry into parinirvana to sentient beings." The Buddha said, "Thus it is, thus it is. It is as you have spoken, Kasyapa. Long in the distant past, an immeasurable and innumerable number of inconceivable, immeasurable eons ago, there was a Buddha who was called Paragon of the Dragons, as well as other 10 titles. He who should receive offerings of correct universal understanding, sufficient and wise practice, well gone. He who understands the world, the unsurpassed one. He who disciplines humans, teachers of humans and devas and gods, and well-honored Buddha. Okay. So when Paragon of the Dragons Buddha attained unsurpassable and perfect enlightenment and first turned the wheel of the Dharma in that world, he created an assembly of 7 billion bodhisattvas through his teaching. Okay. So, Kasyapa, could that Paragon of the Dragons Buddha of the world universal equivalence, so he's referring to this Buddha of an ancient past who used to live in a world or a world system called universal equivalence. Okay. So Shakyamuni Buddha says, you must have no doubt. Why? It was no other than Manjushri, the Dharma Prince. So Manjushri Bodhisattva is actually a Buddha that manifests as a Bodhisattva. Okay. So this is the case of Avalokiteshvara or Mahastama Prapta. These are actually Buddhas who choose of their own compassion and wisdom to manifest themselves as servants of the Buddhas. Yes. So remember that not only manifest themselves as Buddhas, there are many stories in of actually Buddhas who choose to manifest as dogs. There is also actually many stories in Tibet, China, you know, and actually also in Japan of Buddhas who choose to manifest themselves as ordinary people. Yes, I don't know. It could be a vagabond or someone that you see that is dirty on the street. That could be actually be a Buddha manifesting themselves as an ordinary person. Yes, in order to preach the Dharma. So Buddhas are very wise, you know, because they sometimes they understand that the best way to teach sentient beings is not openly, yes, but in some unknown ways or secret ways. We don't know, you see. And there are many such examples in the Mahayana Sutras. I have only given you 2 examples of Manjushri and Avalokiteshvara, but there are many of these examples in the history of Buddhism of beings that appear out of nowhere to help people. You know, there is a beautiful story, for example, of Master Suyun or Master Empty Cloud. He's a great Zen master from China, Chan master. And I remember in his biography, he was going to a village in Wutan mountain. It's the mountain of Manjushri Bodhisattva, and he was actually quite sick, you know, and he was like left on the road there, and somebody suddenly, an elderly man, yes, like an old guy, appeared out of nowhere and took him to his house and gave him medicine for 1 week, you know, and gave him food, everything. And when he woke up, he didn't, he had disappeared. And and maybe he saw in a dream, I think, that he was Manjushri Bodhisattva, and nobody in the village knew who this guy was, you know. And there are many of such examples. So the point here, quoting the sutras and these examples of Buddhist history, let's say, is that Buddhas can also help sentient beings without openly telling them, hey, I am a Buddha. You see, they can disguise themselves as great enlightened bodhisattvas, like Avalokiteshvara and Mamaprapta. Yes, they can manifest in any of the 10 bhumis. Yes, they can also manifest as even as human beings and even as animals, even what shape that is most helpful or that is most beneficial to sentient beings. So they can adapt their figure or their shape to adapt to the needs of sentient beings. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, an enlightened being can assume the body of a fully enlightened Buddha to preach the Dharma openly, but he can also assume any of the 10 bhumis or any shape, yes, in samsaric existence, yes. Of course, the shape only, no, because the mind of an enlightened being remains the same, you see. So this is very important to understand. Yes, they can manifest as many Nirmanakaya bodies as they can for the benefit of sentient beings. This is very important. Okay, so in this section we see that there are two types of bodhisattvas. Maybe I will try to quote here the book. Yes, and actually in the larger sutra, yes, in the larger sutra, we see that actually Shakyamuni explains that all of these bodhisattvas, Mahayana bodhisattvas that are here in the larger, actually they repeat the same story, only Buddha attaining enlightenment. Remember that Shakyamuni Buddha himself in the Lotus Sutra and other sutras as well, he describes that actually he had attained enlightenment already. And this is very clear, yes, from all the sutras. Yes, even in the Kalipanam, you see that Shakyamuni was destined to manifest enlightenment even before he was born. You see, when he was born, he gave 7 steps, and he said that I am. There is no one higher than me. He says, I am the Tathagata. I am the Buddha. He says this even as a baby. You see, so you see that he was already enlightened. No, this is very clear. And in the Lotus Sutra, he says it openly. Actually, Shakyamuni Buddha was already an enlightened being, but he pretended not to be enlightened for the sake of others. You see, why? It's in order to encourage us who are ordinary beings who have lots of problems, especially in the Jiriki path, especially in the self-power paths, when you need a little bit of encouragement. Hey, you can meditate, you can do it. Yes, go for the precepts, you know. Go for it. You know, it's possible for you to get enlightenment. You see, I'm like you, but actually Shakyamuni Buddha was not like us. Yeah, even from the very beginning, he didn't attain enlightenment. He pretended to attain enlightenment. Yes, and of course, he in the distant past there was a period in which he was an unenlightened sentient being. You see, but when he attained enlightenment, you know, he then pretended not to be enlightened and repeat the same story of Shakyamuni Buddha, of the Prince Siddhartha becoming a Buddha, in order for us to, in order for us sentient beings to become encouraged to practice the Dharma. You see, so he saw this guy was in a and he became enlightenment. So certainly I can. So you see, it works. You see, they pretend not to be enlightened, and they show you how to get enlightened by pretending not to be, and then they manifest enlightenment that they had already attained a long time ago. You see, so you could say that this is a skillful way, yes, an upaya, as it's called in Sanskrit, a skillful method, a skillful means, as it's translated into English, a skillful means, yes, that the Buddhas use in order to benefit sentient beings. They pretend to be not enlightened, they pretend to be an ordinary guy, they pretend to be a bodhisattva, when in fact they are Buddhas. See, so Buddhas have a variety of methods that they can use in order to benefit sentient beings. And we can see this in many Mahayana sutras, and especially in the larger sutra, which is, of course, the most important sutra for us in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism and in Pure Land Buddhism in general. Okay?
Yes.
And actually, as Shakyamuni Buddha himself explains in the larger sutra, he demonstrates, he says, okay, he says that bodhisattvas demonstrate that they pass into nirvana. Yes. So they tell people, okay, bye bye, I have to go. But actually, it's not like they go and they stay in nirvana in an inactive way. Actually, when they pass into parinirvana, they go, but they go to benefit beings in other world systems. So Buddhas are never idle. You know, they are never lazy. They have perfect compassion and perfect wisdom. So as soon as they leave one world system, as soon as a Nirmanakaya body has completed its mission, then they emanate other Nirmanakaya bodies. Okay, and actually,
they will.
And actually,
wait a second. Also, this doesn't mean they somehow become invisible to the human eye, but they continue to be active. Even in the world, they appear to attain parinirvana. They also continue to be active, but in an invisible way. You know, and people. If we ask why Buddhas do this, is because, for example, let's imagine that Shakyamuni Buddha stayed in human form forever. Sooner or later, people would become bored by him, you know. Oh, Buddha is here with us in human form. We can practice today, we can go the next day, or we can take a break. But if you know that Shakyamuni will not stay for long in his human form, then perhaps you would be more, how can I say, more, you will put more effort into practice. So this is why Shakyamuni didn't stay long in his human body, so that those around him, his disciples, put great effort, knowing that one day he will leave his body. That's why.
yes, yes, of course, and this happens also with the emanations of Avalokiteshvara and all of these great bodhisattvas and enlightened beings. They choose to manifest in ways that they know will be beneficial. So only they know the karmic conditions of sentient beings, no? So there are many things that they can do. Of course, as Joshu Sensei says, the fact that Shakyamuni Buddha left the physical form doesn't mean that he's not inactive in this world. Actually, he's active in all world systems at the same time. And actually, once beings attain enlightenment, they are beyond the constraints or beyond the limitations of space and time. So they can be in multiple world systems at the same time. You see? So Shakyamuni Buddha can be here in this form and at the same time can be in other world system in another form. We don't know. So there are many ways in which enlightened beings can benefit people. And of course, this is very exciting because this is precisely what we will do in the Pure Land. Okay, so if you think that the Pure Land will be like a vacation, forget about it. You will go there to enjoy helping sentient beings and to be quite active for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay, so this is something to look forward to, and this is what the Buddhas do. This is the eternal activity of the Buddhas: eternal compassion and eternal wisdom for the sake of all. Okay, so yes, there are many things to be said here, but yes, I think that this is enough for this question. So basically, to summarize, there are two types of bodhisattvas: ordinary beings like us who want to become Buddhas, yes, and have this aspiration, but are still learning, yes, how to become a Buddha. Yes,
This is bodhisattva in aspiration.
A bodhisattva in aspiration. In our case, as Yodo Shinshu practitioners, we don't walk the self-power path. We only have faith in Amida Buddha, according to the primal vow, and we are assured of birth in the Pure Land where we will attain a final enlightenment. And from the moment that we receive Shinjin, we attain the stage of non-retrogression. Yes. So if you have Shinjin, you can be said to be a non-retrogressive bodhisattva. That would be a being who has assured Buddhahood in the future. But in our case, this is not attained through our power, but by the power of the primal vow, by the power and the merits of Amida Buddha, who transfers his transcendental merits to us in the form of Shinjin. So Shinjin comes from Amida Buddha. Okay? We only entrust ourselves to him. That is the case of Yodo Shinshu practitioners. Of course, if you are a non-retrogressive bodhisattva like Nagarjuna, in that case, he attains that through his own power. Yeah, so for example, like Tsongkhapa or like Milarepa, these great bodhisattvas and enlightened beings or beings who are very close to enlightenment or are walking the hard path, they attain that difficult to attain stage of non-retrogression through their own power. So that is different. In our case, it's through the power of Amida Buddha. Okay, so that is bodhisattvas in aspiration. Yeah, and you have enlightened bodhisattvas like Avalokiteshvara, like Mahastamaprapta, or like Manjushri, who are actually Buddhas who choose to manifest themselves as disciples of the Buddhas, as helpers of the Buddhas. For example, Avalokiteshvara, who is always at the sides, and Mahastamaprapta, always at both sides of Amida Buddha, and they are actually enlightened beings who choose to manifest themselves out of love and compassion for sentient beings as disciples, as good disciples and helpers of the Buddha. Okay, so Avalokiteshvara is like let's call it like the right hand of Amida Buddha, and Mahastamaprapta is the left hand. You could say it like that. But both of them are actually enlightened beings, and they can manifest themselves as in any shape or form that is of benefit to the sentient beings that they are trying to help in any given country or world system, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I think that is enough for this question. Do you have another comment, Yoshi Sensei or Hosan?
One more thing I would like to add.
Or some commentary?
Yes, so just one thing. People who watch this video should go to the to my commentary on the Sutra on the Buddha of Infinite Life, to section 2, the qualities of bodhisattvas in audience, and they should carefully read the footnotes, because in the footnotes I give lots of passages from various sutras which show that, as Kosho said, that Manjushri, even some Manjushri, Avalokiteshvara, Mahastamaprapta, but also Maitreya and Samantabhadra are actually enlightened bodhisattvas. That is Buddhas who manifest as bodhisattvas. So please go to the footnotes and read them very carefully. This book, the commentary on the larger sutra, has very important footnotes, as well as all the books for this examination have very important footnotes. And they are not placed like other books at the end of the book, but they are placed on the same page with the passage that with the text. Okay, that's what I wanted to say.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
Hosan, if you have any question, please ask.
I don't have any questions. I'm satisfied with it. Thank you.
Okay, Sensei, so I will continue. Yes. I only wanted to mention is that if you want to study the larger sutra, please read Joshua Sensei's commentary. It's very good. Actually, as far as I know, this is the only full-length commentary in the Yodo Shinshu tradition in English. So
yes.
I mean, not to say, but I don't see any comparable commentary. You see, and also it's very clear, and I recommend that you try to read this sutra with a commentary, because otherwise you can get lost. I myself tried to read the larger sutra on my own. I didn't understand many things, but it's good that you have this commentary and you can study along. And as Joshua Sensei says, there are many passages in this sutra.
There are many layers of understanding the larger sutra and many ways of reading the larger sutra. We know there is like a building with many doors. The way I commented and explained the larger sutra is from the point of view of the primal vow and from the point of view of Shinran Shonin. This is why I give many passages from Shinran related with various aspects of the larger sutra. You see? So, and it is, as I said, it is explained from the point of view of the primal vow. This is why if you read a commentary on the larger sutra from the perspective of other schools, for example, by the Chinese school, and you will see many differences between them and this commentary.
Yes.
Yeah. So as Jodo Shinshu, you should read this one. Okay.
Yes, and also because I used to pertain, I used to belong to the Chinese Pure Land tradition, I can tell you that the commentaries that they have are very, very difficult to understand. So, so yes, it's good that we have this book because it's very simple and very complete.